Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're embarking on a truly unique, and I have to say, in many ways, a profoundly challenging journey.
Mm.
Unlike many of our deep dives where we might sift through, a vast array of publicly available documents, our mission today takes us into a singularly personal narrative.
Right. Very focused.
Exactly. And it's one that is intricately woven with significant national and even international events. Our source material for this particular deep dive is, well, it's a fascinating and sometimes unsettling mix.
The real blend.
Yeah, personal accounts, specific historical references, and some really pointed observations on financial and political happenings that, frankly, defied easy categorization.
Definitely not straightforward.
At its very heart, this is a story centered around an individual's claims of profound ingenuity, their life's work, really, in essence, and the alleged nationalization or, well, forceful taking of that work.
That's the core claim.
We're going to explore these claims of intellectual property theft, a perception of systemic betrayal, and how one person's very personal narrative connects to major Icelandic financial events. It's quite powerful.
It really is. It's a reminder that sometimes the most intricate stories, the ones with the biggest impact, can emerge from these intensely personal experiences.
Absolutely.
Indeed. And our objective today really is to meticulously unpack this intricate narrative. We want to highlight the core claims precisely as they are presented by the author.
Right, as they present them.
Exactly. And to meticulously examine the profound implications for an individual's ingenuity and their fundamental trust in institutions. We're here to understand the author's perspective, to discern the underlying themes, control, trust, the perceived value of intellectual property within what they describe as a complex and at times overtly adversarial world.
Yeah.
This deep dive is really about understanding the connections and assertions presented within this compelling material. It's not about validating or refuting them,
No, definitely not.
but about laying them out clearly, comprehensively, for you, our listener, so you can grasp the full scope of this, this extraordinary account.
Exactly. So prepare yourselves. We're going to distill the crucial insights and some truly surprising, even jarring facts from these deeply layered sources.
There's a lot there.
There is. It's a narrative that draws some stark connections between personal experience, a nation's financial crises, and even some, frankly, unsettling historical figures, all in a way that really compels you to pause and maybe reevaluate some assumptions. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
So to truly grasp the essence of this narrative, we first have to understand the central concept around which it all revolves. That's the author's definition of their ingenuity and the structure they initially built to safeguard it.
Right, the ingenuity part is key.
When the author speaks of their ingenuity, they paint a picture that's far broader than just, a single invention or idea.
Much broader.
They define it as their inventiveness, and they explicitly state it represents the buildup of my own life. That's quite a phrase.
It is. It suggests something incredibly comprehensive. It encompasses this vast, multifaceted spectrum of their creative and entrepreneurial endeavors. It's presented as the sum total of their intellectual and professional output.
So not just a list of projects, then?
No, not at all. It's presented as the very fabric of their professional and personal output, spanning diverse fields. The sources indicate this ingenuity included involvement or conceptualization related to projects like one laptop per child.
Okay, I've heard that.
Right. Also, contributions to the foundational development of the internet, various ventures in movies and music, and all the associated businesses that apparently stem from these creative pursuits.
Wow, okay. That's a lot.
It is. The author frames this ingenuity as their accumulated intellectual capital, their unique contributions over essentially a lifetime of effort.
And to protect this incredibly vast, intricate, and, as you said, deeply personal body of work, the author conceived and established an entity they named Knowledge Guard. So how is this intended to function? What was its original purpose, according to them?
Well, the author's original vision for Knowledge Guard was quite specific and, you could argue, pretty meticulously planned.
Okay.
It was conceived as a dual-purpose entity, primarily a development organization, but also, crucially, a holding company.
Holding company, right.
Its overarching purpose, as articulated in the source material, was to act as a formidable shield for the author's ingenuity.
A shield.
Exactly. This involved protecting their intellectual property, diligently registering licenses for their various creations, and ensuring that every single aspect of their work and associated ventures was conducted by the book.
By the book under Icelandic law.
Precisely, under the stringent framework of Icelandic law. And as a testament to their commitment to proper procedure, the authors specifically envisioned two independent audit companies.
Two.
Yes, two. Working in continuous concert with Knowledge Guard, constantly reporting back to them, acting as external watchdogs, essentially, to ensure full compliance and transparency.
That sounds very thorough.
It does. The very name, Knowledge Guard, they believed, spoke volumes about its intended function: protection, security, and adherence to proper procedures for their intellectual capital.
Okay, so this sounds like an incredibly robust and well-thought-out system designed specifically for protection. But here's where the narrative takes a profound, and for the author, a deeply distressing turn.
This is the pivot point.
The sources meticulously detail this pivotal moment that apparently altered everything. June 28, 2005.
That specific date.
On this precise date, the Federation of Icelandic Industries became a shareholder in Knowledge Guard. Now, for the author, this was far from a routine business transaction.
Not at all.
It was an event imbued with immense significance, marking what they perceived as a fundamental betrayal.
The author's immediate and really unwavering interpretation of this event was that it constituted nothing less than nationalization.
Nationalization, that's a strong term in this context.
Very strong. And they don't shy away from defining it in the most unequivocal terms. They explicitly state it means stealing. From their deeply personal perspective, this wasn't a consensual partnership or an acquisition. It was an act of overt force.
Force.
They described this event as leading to the complete expansion of an unwelcome influence, effectively allowing them, this external entity, to just take with force.
So a complete takeover in their eyes.
A total usurpation of their life's work. The very concept they had painstakingly built Knowledge Guard to protect, now allegedly used to dispossess them. It transformed, in their view, from a guard into a weapon used against them.
And the perceived immediate consequence of this nationalization. It was stark and deeply unsettling for the author, wasn't it?
Absolutely. They articulate a chilling vision of what happened next, stating, now they can start spending all the money of my ingenuity and bought up businesses and banks around the globe.
So the money from their work was used for global acquisitions.
That's the claim. There's a palpable and profound fear expressed in the sources that the money or the companies and the ingenuity never got into the right hands. And a strong, unwavering assertion that they are still owed that money and those companies. This isn't just about a financial loss, you understand?
No, it sounds much deeper.
It's rooted in a deep sense of injustice, a feeling of being fundamentally wronged, and a demand for unfulfilled restitution. It extends far beyond just simple asset recovery.
This idea of nationalization being applied to an individual's intellectual property, defined so starkly as stealing, it really forces us to confront the broader and often complex concept of IP rights, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Intellectual property rights and ownership in our modern world. The author's original intent for Knowledge Guard was for it to be this legal and financial bulwark.
Yeah, a mechanism for protection.
A precise mechanism for protection and proper registration. The compelling claim here is that this very shield was instead weaponized against them, allegedly used to seize their foundational creative and business output.
Which raises a crucial question for us as we navigate this narrative.
Exactly. What happens when an individual feels their fundamental creative and business endeavors built over a lifetime have been forcefully seized?
And the very system designed to protect them is perceived as being turned directly against them.
Right. It's a stark and unsettling contrast between their initial hope for legal protection and the alleged reality of its subversion. It highlights a profound vulnerability inherent in relying on institutional frameworks when that trust erodes.
Okay, so moving beyond that core claim of intellectual property theft, the author's narrative expands. It goes into allegations of a far broader, more pervasive systemic betrayal.
Yes, it branches out significantly.
One that they claim reaches into the deepest financial, legal, and political dimensions of Icelandic society and even beyond. The author's initial hope, as we discussed, was that the Icelandic legal system would protect their ingenuity, ensure everything was by the book.
That was the foundation.
However, their account suggests the exact opposite unfolded. They unequivocally state that the legal system and the tools that the society has is weaponized also, of course, and then the rest of the world.
Weaponized. That word again.
It paints a picture of a pervasive sense of being targeted, not just by specific individuals or corporations, but by the very structures of society.
It implies a profound institutional betrayal, one that they feel echoes globally.
And this sense of institutional betrayal leads directly into some very serious financial accusation.
Very serious. The sources explicitly and repeatedly mention money laundering.
Just stated outright like that.
Outright. It's not a subtle implication. It's a direct and emphatic accusation. The author connects this alleged money laundering of their ingenuity to many familiar names in the Panama Papers, the offshore leak.
Wow. Okay, so linking it to those huge global investigations.
Exactly. For anyone less familiar, the Panama Papers and offshore leaks expose these vast, often illicit financial networks, offshore tax havens used by powerful people and corporations worldwide to conceal wealth, avoid taxes.
A massive story.
Huge. And the author directly links their personal narrative of IP theft to these major international financial scandals, suggesting their alleged losses were part of a much larger, globally recognized pattern of financial misconduct.
And they specifically tie this to something else, too.
Yes, they specifically tie this to targeting software, copyright theft, the backbone of the expansion.
The backbone of the expansion. What does that imply?
It implies that the alleged theft and nationalization of their intellectual property wasn't just an isolated incident, but a fundamental enabling element of a larger illicit financial operation, a crucial piece of a broader scheme.
Okay. Furthermore, the sources make a pretty staggering assertion regarding a well-documented global financial event, the collapse of the Icelandic banks in 2008.
Yeah, this is a big one. The author claims this collapse was the third largest bankruptcy in history, almost a world record. It was bronze, the third place.
I remember that crisis well. It was huge.
Absolutely monumental in modern financial history. And the author believes this crisis is directly linked to the money laundering of their ingenuity.
Directly linked. That's a remarkable assertion.
It is, suggesting that their personal financial loss and the alleged illicit use of their intellectual property played a direct, significant role in a crisis of national and, you could argue, international scale.
The implications of that connection, if true, are just immense, tying individual suffering to systemic failure on that level.
Precisely.
And adding to this complex financial picture, the narrative highlights Iceland's, let's say, problematic past with the Financial Action Task Force, or FATF.
Right, the FATF. The sources point out Iceland's previous presence on their gray list.
Can you just remind us what the FATF gray list means?
Sure. The FATS is a global intergovernmental organization. They develop policies to combat money laundering and terrorism financing. A gray list designation is given to countries that the FATF deems have strategic deficiencies in their anti-money laundering and counterterrorism financing regimes.
So it's a warning sign, basically.
Exactly. It signals to the world that these countries need to make substantial improvements. Iceland was on this list until October 26, 2020, as reported by the Icelandic newspaper Morgunblaðið.
And the author finds this significant.
Very. They find it particularly puzzling, even suspicious, that money that was supposedly borrowed would need to be laundered.
Ah, okay. I see the logic there.
This leads them to a pointed conclusion. If this money was indeed laundered, its origin must have come from some other source than borrowing, implying a deeper, more illicit and undisclosed origin for the funds allegedly connected to their ingenuity and the subsequent financial activities they describe.
The political angle presented in this narrative is equally stark. It suggests deep-seated corruption, painting a picture that extends far beyond just business disputes.
Yeah, it moves firmly into the political realm. The sources claim that representatives of some of the families who were involved in doing business with the ingenuity were made chairmen of Icelandic political parties.
Chairman of political parties.
That's the claim. This isn't just about financial grievances. It paints a picture of a profound entanglement. Personal business disputes intertwined with the very highest levels of national politics.
It suggests a deeply embedded conflict of interest, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Where those allegedly involved in the nationalization of the author's work gain significant political power, potentially influencing policies or outcomes in their favor.
And there are direct accusations of bribery.
Yes. What's particularly striking here is the direct accusation of pervasive bribery and corruption. The author explicitly states how corrupt politicians can really be, indicating a deeply cynical view of the political landscape. They elaborate that money was applied for the Icelandic politicians and bankers, etc., bribery, painting a clear picture of illicit payments.
There's also a quote about silence enabling liars.
Yes, a powerful statement. Silence enables the liar. It underscores a fundamental belief that complicity through inaction or concealment perpetuates and normalizes this alleged corruption.
And this connects to companies involved.
The sources further reinforce this by pointing out that some companies reportedly involved in the case were themselves accused of bribery, paying someone to distort the truth or telling a lie,
Suggesting a pattern.
suggesting a systemic pattern of behavior where truth is not just distorted, but actively bought and sold, creating a system where deceit is allegedly commonplace and unpunished. It speaks to a deep rot in the very foundations of public trust, according to this narrative.
This pervasive sense of deception, it's clearly acutely and painfully felt by the author. It leads to profound personal distress.
You can really feel it in the language used.
We describe those allegedly involved in the scheme with chilling precision.
Yeah.
They don't even stutter while they lie because they know that language by heart.
That's a powerful image.
It's almost visceral, isn't it? Individuals so accustomed to deceit that it has become second nature, a fluent language spoken without hesitation.
And the author also uses incredibly strong, emotionally charged language to refer to those involved.
Yes, calling them as sick stalkers who suffer from stealing deficit disorder and attention deficit disorder.
That conveys not just financial violation, but something much deeper.
A profound feeling of personal violation, psychological torment, and an enduring sense of being relentlessly pursued and attacked on a deeply personal level.
And beyond the significant financial and political implications, the personal cost articulated by the author is truly heart-wrenching. It underscores the profound impact of this alleged systemic betrayal.
There's a specific quote about their children.
Yes, a deeply poignant statement. My togetherness with my children was sacrificed for the election offices.
Wow.
This highlights that the alleged betrayal wasn't consigned to money or business assets. It permeated and irrevocably damaged the most fundamental relationships and aspects of their personal life.
Suggesting a profound and deeply personal sacrifice.
A shattering of family bonds, further underscoring the severity of the perceived systemic betrayal. It extends its devastating reach far beyond mere financial losses to the very core of their human experience and relationships. It paints a picture of a life utterly upended.
Okay, this next section delves into one of the most striking and frankly profoundly disturbing specific claims in the sources. It ties together the alleged usurpation of ingenuity with a profound personal violation.
This is where it gets particularly unsettling.
The author details a specific and crucial event. 19. April 2005. The Knowledge Guard makes a contract of cooperation with the Public Health Institute.
April 19th, 2005, another key date.
On the surface, this might appear to be, a routine institutional agreement between an organization and a public health body.
Seems standard enough, perhaps.
However, the author's interpretation of its alleged consequences is anything but routine. It's presented as utterly chilling.
Yes. The profound and deeply disturbing alleged consequence of this cooperation, as stated unequivocally by the author, is that through this seemingly innocuous contract,
Yes.
they deliver themselves the business of my ingenuity and deliver me, brainwash on my native language, even in foreign countries, thieves.
Brainwash. Delivered by a public health institute.
That is the claim. It's truly astonishing, pushing the boundaries of what one might conventionally believe. It asserts that a public health institute, a body typically associated with promoting and safeguarding public well-being,
Right, that's their usual role.
was allegedly involved not just in the delivery of the author's intellectual property for illicit purposes, but even more chillingly, in a process of brainwash.
Affecting their thoughts. Even abroad.
That's what they claim,
Yeah.
affecting their very thoughts, their cognitive autonomy, even when they were in foreign countries. The implication is that this institution somehow facilitated a coercive control over their mind and language,
Effectively turning their own thoughts against them.
and doing so across international borders. It's a staggering assertion.
This extraordinary claim immediately brings to mind a powerful and universally recognized literary reference, one that the author themselves actually cites.
Right, the 1984 connection.
Exactly. They directly connect this alleged experience to George Orwell's classic dystopian novel, observing that you can read about similar things in the novel 1984 when the state wants to control your thoughts.
A direct parallel.
And the author further notes a perceived irony, stating that those at Morgan Blay seem to have a great appreciation for such literature when the state wants to control your thoughts, considering the experiences I have had with Icelanders.
It's incredibly significant, that connection.
Yeah.
It suggests a perceived parallel between their deeply personal experience and this chilling dystopian concept of state-controlled thought processes and manipulation.
It elevates the alleged betrayal beyond just a financial or legal dispute.
Absolutely, to a fundamental assault on their very autonomy, identity, and mental freedom. It frames their experience within a terrifyingly familiar literary archetype of state oppression.
What's truly fascinating and deeply unsettling here is the sheer audacity of this claim within the broader narrative of nationalization and systemic betrayal.
It really stands out. The implication of an institution like a public health institute allegedly being involved in such a way.
Especially linked to controlling thoughts, language, and ingenuity.
It raises profound questions about the perceived boundaries of state power and individual autonomy. It suggests a deep-seated fear that even entities supposedly dedicated to public welfare and health can be co-opted and subverted for nefarious ends.
Allegedly to control not just material assets, but the very mind of the individual.
This specific assertion really stands out as one of the most extreme claims in the entire narrative. It paints a picture of an individual under an unprecedented form of perceived psychological siege.
The narrative then takes an even darker, more provocative, and deeply sensitive turn when the author introduces a chilling historical comparison.
Yes, this is very difficult territory.
They speak of a reborn Joseph Mengele, who they claim is from and lives in the land of Lego, Denmark.
That immediately sets a profoundly unsettling tone, invoking one of history's most infamous and reviled figures.
The epitome of medical depravity.
To fully grasp the gravity of this comparison, it's essential to recall Mengele's historical role. Joseph Mengele, the SS officer and physician during World War II,
The angel of death at Auschwitz.
exactly, known for horrific and unethical genetic research on human subjects, performing unspeakable medical experiments on prisoners.
And the author draws a direct comparison.
A stark point of comparison. They state in their sources, with profound bitterness, Mengele got 2 years with his victims' experimentation, not decades. Then you know where you stand in comparison.
Implying their own alleged ordeal lasted much longer.
That's the implication. That the author feels they have endured a period of alleged abuse and experimentation spanning decades, far longer, perhaps even more insidious than Mengele's documented atrocities. It amplifies the perceived severity exponentially.
And there's a comment about physicians being disguised.
Yes. The source also notes that physicians are sometimes in camouflage, disguised, hinting at a perceived hidden malevolence or complicity within the medical profession itself, suggesting those who should heal may, in this alleged scenario, be involved in harming.
Crucially, the author makes a direct and shocking application of this analogy to a broader societal pattern.
Yes, stating, as you can see from this news story, it seems that it is not uncommon for influential individuals or governments to use doctors or healthcare professionals to torture and kill people.
So not an abstract point, but a direct accusation of a recognized, albeit deeply disturbing, pattern.
Exactly. It suggests that the alleged actions against them are part of a grim and acknowledged practice, lending a chilling weight to their personal claims.
If we connect this disturbing analogy back to the broader picture presented in the sources, what does it suggest?
It suggests a profound and complete erosion of trust in established systems and professions, particularly healthcare, perceiving them as potentially complicit in grave abuses when power or illicit financial gain are at stake.
Is there anything else in the sources that strengthens this line of thought?
The source strengthens this incredibly disturbing line of thought by referencing a September 1st, 2004 agreement between the Icelandic Prison Administration and Solheimar SES.
What was that agreement for?
It was specifically for the placement of prisoners at Solheimar in Grimsø for experimental purposes.
Experimental purposes on prisoners.
That's what the source states the agreement was for. Now, the direct factual link between this specific agreement and the author's personal experience isn't explicitly stated as a causal chain.
But the author draws a connection.
The author's opinion is clearly articulated. A willingness to bribe or lie, as alleged elsewhere in the narrative regarding financial and political corruption, implies a much deeper willingness to pay for the kind of service described above.
That's terrifying.
It's a terrifying implication. It suggests that the perceived willingness to distort truth and engage in illicit financial activities extends to a readiness to fund and conduct extreme, inhumane actions. Connecting the dots between alleged financial corruption and deeply disturbing practices involving healthcare professionals and even institutionalized experimentation on vulnerable individuals, it paints a truly dystopian vision of power.
It is absolutely vital, I think, that we acknowledge the extreme and deeply sensitive nature of this comparison.
Absolutely critical.
As your guides to this material, we are meticulously reporting on the claims made by the author in the source material. We're presenting them as an integral part of their deeply personal narrative.
We're laying out these claims for you without endorsing them as fact.
No, definitely not. But rather to help you understand the full depth, the intensity, and the profound sense of perceived betrayal that permeates the author's perspective.
So what does this all mean for understanding the profound personal cost and the pervasive sense of injustice described here?
It forces us to confront how deeply an individual can feel violated when they believe their very being, their life's work, even their cognitive autonomy are targeted by powerful, seemingly unseen forces operating within the shadows of established institutions.
It's a terrifying thought experiment, made real, at least in the perception of this author.
Given the sheer gravity and the widespread nature of these claims, it's only natural that the author would attempt to seek recourse through established channels, right?
You would expect so. And the sources detail their earnest attempts to seek help, stating, of course, I've tried to get in touch with the relevant institutions, such as the police, etc., at the time.
So they did try to engage the system.
It indicates a clear effort to engage with the very systems meant to provide justice, protection, and accountability within society.
However, the narrative suggests that these attempts were met not with assistance, but with experiences that deeply fueled a pervasive sense of constant surveillance and manipulation.
Exactly. The author recounts a particularly unsettling personal experience that seemed to solidify this feeling.
What was that?
When I returned to Iceland from the UK, with a few days and weeks stop in DK, the first person who tried to make friends with me and spent time with me, whom I didn't know before, was a detective.
A detective, the first person they met.
That's the claim. It's a profoundly disturbing detail. It implies that even their personal interactions, especially after international travel, were potentially infiltrated or monitored by law enforcement.
Leading to an insidious and pervasive feeling of being watched.
Targeted, actively manipulated from the moment they set foot back on Icelandic soil, according to them, which shatter any sense of privacy or security.
And this feeling of pervasive external interest or surveillance isn't just an isolated incident in their account.
No, the sources point out other, more contemporary signs that reinforce this deeply unsettling notion. For example, the author mentions interesting searches on my LinkedIn profile where they look me up.
What kind of searches?
Specific phrases like the dollar system in international trade, and even more recently, a LinkedIn suggestion from April 20th, 2024, proposing you might be interested in U.S. Department of State international affairs.
Could be coincidence, but
Well, whether purely coincidental or deliberately orchestrated, these details contribute powerfully to the author's narrative of being a person of unusual interest to powerful, possibly governmental entities.
connecting their personal struggles to much broader geopolitical or economic spheres.
And reinforcing their belief in a coordinated campaign against them.
The cumulative effect of all these experiences, from the alleged nationalization of their ingenuity to the perceived betrayal by institutions and this constant surveillance, must be overwhelming.
It's described as an overwhelming feeling of helplessness and a profound, almost absolute lack of trust. The author states unequivocally and with deep anguish.
What do they say?
You can't trust those people for your ingenuity, the money and possessions, your passport, and of course not your body, that's for sure, forcing of you, the ingenuity and assets, and forcing people into ill health.
That paints a truly grim picture, a total breakdown of trust.
Extending from their intellectual property and financial assets to their very personal safety and physical well-being. They firmly believe there's nothing they won't do for the money out of the ingenuity and get away with it.
Suggesting a perception of an unstoppable, amoral force.
Driven purely by greed, operating with complete impunity. That's the picture painted.
This pervasive sense of deception and the feeling of living within a web of lies, it's further reinforced by a quote from a prominent U.S. economist, Jeffrey D. Sachs, isn't it?
Yes, a quote which resonates deeply with the author's perceived reality. The author references Sachs's interview with the Wyon news agency, where he reportedly commented on his country's fellow men and allies, stating directly, "We live in a web of lie."
And the author adds their own observation.
They add a chilling and pointed observation, which ties back to themes we discussed earlier, stating, in the U.S. they have something they call the Ministry of Truth.
Another direct reference to Orwell's 1984.
Exactly. The Ministry of Truth, the the symbol of state-controlled propaganda and historical revisionism. It solidifies the author's belief that they are operating within a system where truth is deliberately controlled, manipulated, and even suppressed.
It's a powerful and profoundly unsettling summation of their perceived reality.
Highlighting a world where fundamental facts are seen as fluid, constantly being reshaped by those in power.
So, as we bring this deep dive to a close, it's abundantly clear we've unpacked a truly unique and deeply challenging narrative.
Absolutely.
We've explored an incredibly complex web of claims spanning the alleged theft of intellectual property, far-reaching national financial scandals, profound political corruption.
And even deeply personal forms of alleged manipulation, including that astonishing claim of brainwash orchestrated through a contract with a public health institute.
This is far from a simple story. It's a raw, multifaceted, and at times intensely disturbing account of perceived betrayal and systemic injustice that really pushes the boundaries of conventional understanding.
It's precisely this complexity and the, well, audacious nature of some of the claims that underscores the critical importance of critical thinking when you engage with narratives like this. These are claims that defy easy categorization. They present unsettling, almost unbelievable connections between seemingly disparate events and institutions. We've presented the author's perspective precisely as it appears in the source material.
Raw, unfiltered, deeply personal.
Exactly. And what's truly fascinating here is how this intensely personal story, despite its unique specificities, intersects with broader universal issues that resonate far beyond Iceland.
Like trust in institutions.
The fundamental question, trust in institutions, yes. The immense and often unseen power of information control. And the very definition of justice when an individual feels their life's work has been usurped and weaponized against them.
It's a narrative that forces us to contemplate the precarious nature of individual autonomy in a world of powerful entities.
It really does.
And for you, our listener, why should a narrative as specific and intensely personal as this resonate?
Well, this deep dive forces us to confront the profound vulnerability of individual creativity, innovation, and livelihood in the face of perceived systemic forces. It challenges us to grapple with the discomfort of claims that push the boundaries of what we might typically consider plausible. And it highlights the immense challenge of discerning truth in a world where information itself can be weaponized.
And personal experiences can feel like a relentless battle against an overwhelming and seemingly omnipresent system.
It's a call to reflect on where the lines of trust and power truly lie.
And that leads us to a final, truly provocative thought drawn directly from the author's own words.
What's that?
They state, naturally, I don't need to state that people naturally need to read those documents to understand the content and to get the big picture.
So go to the source. Essentially, this isn't just a suggestion. It's a profound challenge to us all. In an age of information overload, where summaries and sound bites often dominate our understanding, this powerful statement reminds us that the ultimate responsibility for truly understanding the full scope of any story, especially one as intricate and deeply personal as this, often lies in directly engaging with the source material itself.
It prompts us to ask,
what more might I uncover if I were to truly deep dive into such claims myself, beyond just the surface, and meticulously piece together the entire picture?
It's a fundamental call to active, critical, and independent engagement with the narratives that shape our understanding of the world.